Attention, attention, may I have your attention, please? If you happen to be an NVIDIA investor, stock ticker NVDA, you're gonna wanna listen up. Sorry for that dramatic entry, but honestly, if you are paying attention to NVIDIA, whether trading in it, investing in it, or if you're just a supporter of what's going on in AI in general, you're very much going to want to watch this video because we just got a little bit of a bombshell piece of news. For those of you who don't have the time to watch this entire video, let me hit you with the TLDR. A big player in the world of NVIDIA just sold out for $6 billion. And if you ask me, it was just a play for them to pocket a little bit of money. And in reality, I say good riddance, because in my humble personal opinion, I believe NVIDIA, at least in the short to medium term, is going to continue to skyrocket higher. Now, before we get into the nitty gritty of why that is, if you enjoy these type of market breakdowns, don't forget to like, subscribe, share this video with a grandma, and of course, in a comment below, if there's a particular company or crypto or something like that that you want me to cover in these update videos, like I said, let me know in a comment, and if I see enough people talking about the same thing, I am more than happy to make that. So with all that being said, let's get rocking. Just so you know, I'm filming this on Tuesday, November the 11th. Happy Veterans Day. If you're watching this and you happen to be a vet, I appreciate your service. The market just closed, and here's the official headline. Dow closes at record high, but Nasdaq slips as investors rotate out of technology stocks. And really, the emphasis is on NVIDIA. But first, just so you know, the overall market had a decent day, gained 0.2%. We closed right around 6,850. There is still a downside gapful, and obviously we're not that far away from the all-time high. As that headline alluded to, the Nasdaq was a slightly different story. It dropped 0.3% today. It was technically an inside day, as in the high and the low were within the high and the low of the previous day, and there's still an upside and a downside gapful, but obviously both are holding their overall momentum, the EMA cloud holding this 50 EMA. Bitcoin actually showing a little bit of weakness. We got this recent pop showing some weakness in terms of breaking down to the previous low. If you zoom out, lower highs, lower lows, for those of you who spend way too much time on the internet the way I do, you probably know that James Wynn right now betting against Bitcoin, at least at this moment, is pretty happy. So that's pretty much the TLDR on the daily chart. Overall, equities are looking strong, not the strongest. Crypto looking a little bit weak. Intraday, it was weakness in the morning, and then things turned around 11, and we pumped pretty much until the afternoon, where we went flat. And right now in post market, not the most really is going on. So just want to let you know the general setup, because obviously when you're talking about NVIDIA, you're talking about the biggest company in the entire world, one of the most popular stocks in both the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq. So it's good to have the general setup. So the big breaking news of the morning was this: SoftBank sells NVIDIA stake for $5.8 billion to fund AI bets. So I want to make it clear, even though some of the rhetoric of this, as you're about to see, is like, oh my God, they sold, everyone should sell now. If you listen to them, they're basically saying, well, hang on, it was up so much, and maybe there's a sense of mean reversion, and they want to get into the other aspects of AI. So when on this news, NVIDIA did drop 2.9%. And okay, yeah, maybe in the short term, if you're day trading, scalp trading, something like that might matter. But as a swing trader, as an investor, I do want to remind you, it's up 42% year to date. When in doubt, zoom out. And this little hiccup because of one whale getting out really isn't that big of a deal. But of course, the way media works, the way emotions work in the market, when it rains, it pours. Because not only do we have that, but then we have Michael Burry from the Big Short investor. Michael Burry accuses AI hyperscalers of artificially boosting earnings. Like I said, when it rains, it pours. And I believe that mainstream media, especially mainstream financial media, loves to take advantage of this type of a setup. SoftBank just sold out of NVIDIA. Should you? Now, obviously, this is your decision. You're in control of your money. I'm not your mom. Do what you want. I'm going to give you a couple reasons of why I believe, first of all, this is just a silly thing to do because of one guy getting out. Remember that at NVIDIA, we're talking in excess of a $4 trillion market cap. This is a player who sold out $6 billion, orders of magnitude less important than something you should probably care about. So just generally in size, this is a drop in the bucket. Reason number two, when someone like SoftBank sells $5.8 billion, remember, with every buyer, there is a seller. So as much as this might be accurate for them to say SoftBank sold $5.8 billion, you could say the market happily buys $5.8 billion worth of Nvidia. Remember, with every buyer, there is a seller. With every seller, there is a buyer. So really, people are just playing into the namesake of SoftBank. And yes, in the past, have they made some good calls? Of course they have. Also, they've made horrendous missteps in the past. So I want to make it clear, it's not like they have some sort of clairvoyant ability when it comes to the market. But with that being said, I get that people react on emotions, especially when you see these types of headlines. And that's why in the market today, you saw that people basically got out of their calls, especially in the close right here. People started to unload. But if you ask me, in my humble opinion, this is a clear overreaction. And if you just need another piece of proof, every single time there's a little bit of a hiccup in Nvidia and it takes a bit of a hit, guess what it does a couple weeks, a couple months later? It seemingly makes a whole nother new all-time high. In my opinion, the only reason you'd want to get out of Nvidia right now is if you truly believe that the AI play is over. Remember, in this gold rush, Nvidia is the one selling the shovels. So unless you think that this thing is going to get turned completely upside on its head, well, Nvidia is still a very strong play. I should make it clear that I'm speaking a little bit more from a medium to longer term investment idea in terms of that time frame. Obviously, as an active trader, well, it depends if you're day trading, scalp trading, you're going to want to look at support, resistance, all that good stuff. But just holistically talking about this, the fact that the market reacted so negatively to, yeah, it is an Nvidia whale, but relative to what Nvidia is and its overall worth, if you ask me, I think the market is clearly overreacting. As I mentioned at the start of this video, Nvidia is the biggest stock in the entire market, so we can kind of get a general idea of how the two are going to be moving. And check this out. Senate passes bill to end government shutdown, sending it to the House. So we already know that the Senate passed it. We know that President Trump already backed it up, so it's just going to go to the House. And if you look at the numbers in the House, pretty good chance that it's going to get passed, which means the government is most likely going to reopen this week. Polymarket is giving the odds of opening this week at 96%. Looking at Call-She, we're basically saying the same thing, that we're not even going to get to this weekend with the government still being shut down. So overall, that's pretty freaking good. And we see that as well, not only in the price in the market today, but look at that recovery in the options market in the S&P 500. Look at the Mag 7. Yeah, there was a bit of Nvidia selling and then it stopped. And from noon until close, we kept pumping along. And if that isn't enough for you, just because that's the zero DTE movement, look at what's been happening over the past 5 days. People like no other are pushing all of the bets to the call skew, as in people are rushing to get into calls. So the overall market, especially the tech sector, the bulls, they are here. They are evidently buying things up, which at the end of the day is another piece of information telling me that if you're selling right now, I think you might be driven a little bit more by headline news fear rather than the actual underlying metrics. So as a proud Nvidia investor, and I guess once in a while an NVDA trader, I'm here to let you know, when in doubt, zoom out. Yeah, once in a while the news cycle gets a little bit boring and the lamestream media has to make a big story out of a small story. And in reality, when you dive into the actual numbers of the story, it's really nothing that special. So like I've already said numerous times, this is a baby sell-off. Yes, from a technical perspective, there is a downside gap fill, but overall, price structure is strong, price momentum is strong. There's a bit of a hiccup in the options market, but seeing what's going on with the entire tech sector, I bet it's only a matter of time before its footing is found, and then before you know it, probably by the end of this year, we're already seeing another new all-time high. Obviously, these are my own thoughts and opinions, and I would love to hear from you in a comment below. That's what I have for you today. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.